So I've basically decided that every October I will take the opportunity to go live because so many people want to hear me talk and talk about one of the things that I'm very passionate about, which is the fact that October is Pregnancy, Infant, and Child Loss Awareness Month, which is super uplifting, I know, but we need to talk about it. Um, I know last year I kind of shared my story and it was, I don't know, like a 15 or 20-minute long video. So, I won't go super into detail about the story again. I did share it recently, so if you are interested, you can rewatch it. But to make a long story short, 5 years ago, Sean and I experienced a pregnancy loss. I was 18 weeks pregnant and went to the doctor because it just felt like something was off or wrong, and it ended up being my fears were confirmed. And so the three choices I was given was one, um, let's just wait and see what your body does, which to me was a terrible option and not an option at all. Two, which was go into labor. We'll just put you into labor. Again, terrible option for me. I know there are several women who have chosen to do that. Was not a good choice for me. Third option, which is the option I chose, was to essentially have a medical abortion, if you will, which involved me going to Philadelphia. I lived in New Jersey at the time. Seeing a doctor, going the day before to get the prep done, which was not pleasant, going back the next morning for the surgery, and having the procedure. And so that is what we did. Actually, on Valentine's Day in 2013, that is how Sean and I spent the Valentine's Day, going to Philadelphia and having things stuck in my cervix to open it up for the procedure the next day. So it was a really pleasant experience. And so that was that. That was, I had the procedure on February 15th of 2013. I'll never forget that date as long as I live. And so that it's been five and a half years now at this point. And most of the time, the only time I really get super sad about it is on that date, around that week, really. Sometimes around the due date, which was July 14th of 2013. I feel it that day too sometimes. Yeah. So I made a list this year because last year I just kind of rambled and I wanted to kind of be more concise in my points. I have had the opportunity to kind of guide some of my friends through the same situation, which is kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time. Because I always tell anyone that I know is going through it to always reach out to me if they feel like they need someone, because I never ever want anyone to be alone in that experience. And so I have done that multiple times. I've even have had friends ask me to reach out to people that they know that they're close with, to offer support as well. And I'm more than happy to do that. So I've done that. And so people have asked, how do I support someone that I know and love going through this same situation? And so I just kind of always tell people that there's really nothing that you can say or do that's going to make the situation better or make them feel less sad. Honestly, they just need to feel it for now and kind of process that grief and figure out how to work through that grief. It's different for everybody. Everyone grieves differently. And so just allowing that person to cry or scream or say nothing, just as long as they know that, be like, hey, I know I don't know what to say, but just know that I love you and I care about you and I'm here if you need me. So that's, that's always what I say. But although there's not really a right thing to say, there are tons and tons of wrong things to say. When I was going through the situation, I had many people tell me that this was God's plan, which I'm not a religious person anyway, but to tell me that the fact that my baby was not allowed to live was in God's plan is insulting and infuriating because I really don't believe that there would be a plan for me to feel so much pain or for anyone to feel so much pain. It just doesn't make sense to me. And so that's definitely, don't say that. Don't say, I was also told, you're young enough, you can try again, which is infuriating as well because it minimizes the pain that I was feeling and that anyone in that situation is feeling. It minimizes the fact that there was a baby. It minimizes a lot of things, because I lost my pregnancy at 18 weeks, so I was almost halfway through. So, we were talking about names, we were talking about plans for the future for this child, and it was all gone. And so it minimizes all that too. The plans that you were making for this little human are gone. And so don't say that. You should also not say, well, I know how you feel. Even if you've been through the same thing, everyone feels things differently. And it may be the exact way you feel, but you don't know that for sure. Yeah, there are lots of wrong things to say. So, don't say anything dumb. Basically, you'll be okay. I like to mention that there are a lot of support groups. If you live here locally in Columbia, the Women's and Children's Hospital puts on a group once a month. I can't remember exactly when, but if you Google it, you can find it. Sorry. If you don't live here in Columbia, it's fine. There's lots of groups that are around. If you can't find one, if you live out in the middle of nowhere, certainly online groups are available for support because it's very important and I think beneficial for most people to be in a group of people who can at least relate on some level as to what you're going through and to just talk about it. Because it's hard to talk about this with people who have never been through a similar situation because it's uncomfortable. I mean, no one wants to talk about the fact that babies die. No one wants to talk about the fact that pregnancies end sometimes for no reason. It just makes people go, it's uncomfortable. So if it's uncomfortable for you, just imagine how uncomfortable it is for someone going through that. It kind of sucks. Because then you often feel like you have to walk on eggshells around people because you don't want to make people uncomfortable. I remember having to untell a lot of people. Mine happened during my last semester of grad school, and I was doing my practicum at a psych hospital, and so a lot of the staff knew that I was pregnant because I was telling people. And, one day I remember in particular, it was a couple days after I had come back from everything, and someone was like, how's the pregnancy going? And so you have to untell people, and then that makes them uncomfortable, and then you feel uncomfortable because you made someone else uncomfortable. And so it's just, that's why I really believe in talking about it as often as I can, because the more that we talk about it, the less stigmatized it becomes and the less awkward it makes you and other people feel. So another thing that I like to say is that you should always allow the person to kind of lead the conversation in regards to just talking about their grief, and also down the line when it's been a while. Sean and I did not have a name for our baby yet because we did not know the gender at the time. And but a lot of people who have gone through this already know the gender, had the name and everything picked out. And so if they call the baby by the name, then you call the baby by the name. Most of the time, I would say that people just want you to acknowledge the fact that the baby did actually exist, even if they never lived outside the womb, to the mom or dad or both or whoever. The baby was very much real and very much did exist. And so just allow them to lead the conversation, because that will just kind of acknowledge the baby and the fact that, he or she was loved and wanted. Even now, it's been 5.5 years for me, and while I'm very grateful for the fact that I've been able to carry 2 boys through relatively healthy pregnancies, and I love my boys more than my own life, I still very much miss my baby. She was very much wanted and loved and still is. And when the boys are old enough, I do plan to talk to them about their big sister and just everything that goes with that. I don't know how I'll lead that conversation, but I hope that it will be natural and that they understand. So, I also like to mention to people that we need to remember the fathers or the partners of the woman that's experienced the loss. The day that Sean and I went to the hospital and we had the ultrasound and it was confirmed that the baby didn't have a heartbeat, he cried just as hard as I did. And so I think that a lot of the time people don't feel like the men or the partner feel the same amount of grief, but although it's different grief, I'm sure it's still a loss for them, and they need to be supported as well. So that's kind of my spiel there. I think at some point, maybe later this month, maybe I'll try to think of a video to put together to talk about how to support women who are pregnant after they've experienced a loss. Because I think that, there's lots of support groups for that too. And I think I was going to talk about it in this video, but I think I might try to think of a way to put together a better video for that, because that's a hard one too. So anyway, I like to end by saying that if you know, or if you're currently going through this situation and don't feel like you can reach out to anybody, certainly know that I am always available for anybody who might want to talk about it. I can totally be discreet. And I just want to make sure that everyone knows that they have somebody that they can reach out to. Even if it's a friend of a friend of a friend, someone that you're completely removed from, I'm more than happy to, because when I was going through it, I didn't, other than my support group and Sean, of course, didn't really feel like I had a lot of people to reach out to. And so I don't ever want anyone to feel like that, because that's a very isolating feeling. It makes you feel like you did something wrong when it's not. And so it's, I just, like I said, just want to make sure everyone knows that there's always somebody. And if you don't know of anybody, tell them to ask me, or I'm happy to reach out to anybody, because everyone needs to have someone, especially in situations like this. So anyway, please reach out. Let's keep talking about it. Let's make it less stigmatized. And like I said, put together a video later this month, which I'm sure that you all will be looking forward to. So